It's Tuesday, the 14th of November. Yes. Yes, it is. And is it working? Is TikTok working? It is working. Hey, TikTok, how you doing? Listen, it's the 14th of November. It's a Tuesday. And guess what? I know, big shock. This is Ask a Traffic Cop. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day. So why should today be any different? It isn't. We're currently broadcasting on a whole bunch of different platforms. You're probably on one of them. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and the platform formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. It's very exciting. Now, if you're on X, you can't actually ask us any questions, but you can go over to one of our other platforms by going to trafficcop.ca or simply go to YouTube by going to youtube.trafficcop.ca. It'll take you right to our page, and then you can plop down, ask some questions, and go from there. Oh, yeah. I'm spunky today. What do we got going on? Well, we'll do some hellos because I see Julie says hi and Britt says hi and Michael says good morning for tomorrow today during the show. Right now, today is tomorrow's yesterday. Right. I'll let you all read it yourself because that was a lot to process. But no doubt. Oh, and Zombie, I had every intention to get your intro today. But she says, can't stay the whole show, need to retorque my tires. That's a good plan. If you've got your winters on, if you do a change of tires, you should make sure that after a while, you take that invitation back from your tire placement company, the putter-oner of tires, to come back and get your tires torqued, then make sure the lug nuts get tightened. Yeah, just to make sure, because things have a way of settling in and coming loose if they're not done. It's just an added opportunity to be safe. Julie wants to know, what does Julie want to know? How much is the red light camera charge? We can talk about that in a second. Big Jeff Fresh says, happy Tuesday. Thank you. What are we doing? We're going to talk quickly about Vision Zero Enforcement Team, and then we'll get on to your questions, because that's what we do here. Quite literally, we're here to answer your traffic and police questions. Shocking. Ask a traffic cop. Yeah. If you didn't know, by the way, that I am a police officer, I work at Traffic Services, which oddly enough is a traffic unit. Let me move over so I can center myself in here. Yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. It's a traffic unit. It's a citywide unit for the city of Toronto, and we do that traffic investigation thing. We enforce the laws that keep people safe, specific to traffic investigation. Very often, people want to know: are we real cops? Yes, we are. We just happen to specialize in traffic. Not everybody can be a traffic cop, just saying. Okay. Vision Zero Enforcement Team with a cool new picture, by the way. If you haven't seen this picture, Sean Chen took this picture and graciously gave it to us to use. So if you go to Traffic Services on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, you'll see this very nice picture of a Ford Taurus. He's a very talented photographer. I like his work. Okay. We're talking about this team that does enforcement stuff. What do? They change driver behavior one ticket at a time. Yes, they do. Not everybody likes getting their attitudes and behavior adjusted by way of tickets. And my suggestion would be, if you don't like tickets, don't break the law, because they're coming for you if you're breaking them. Today, they're going to be in 52 Division and 55 Division, focused on the big four. That's speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving, the driver behaviors that are known to lead to serious injury and death on our roads. And they're going to be in neighborhoods like Kensington, Chinatown, Bay Street Corridor, the Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. Just saying. If you were in those areas, you'd want us there too. All right, let's get into stuff and things. We got questions that need to be answered. Oh, yes. And Sean Chen's there. I didn't see. He didn't know his photo got covered. So there you go. You can go see your famous photo. That by the way, I believe that translates to thank you so much. All right. Let's see here. Let's go. I got JD's flagged some questions for me. So the first question is, how much is a red light camera? Well, a regular red light camera is how much is it? Is it $320? Hang on. Let's see here. You can tell how often I write red light camera tickets and how often I see the ones that are double, because that's what the I believe the red light camera charges are when they're issued by automation. Fail to stop. Let's see here. I have to look it up, and I'm starting off with one I got to look up at. Where is it? Fail to stop, red light. It's red light, fail to stop. Easier to find. Red light. Here we go. 325, is that the one? I'm asking like you're going to answer me. No, failed red light for no. Okay, 325. Now, it was my understanding that could have been doubled in it. Well, I mean, it's just the speed stuff. So let's call it 325. I'm assuming that's correct. JD, do you know if that's correct? Red light cameras are 325 or are they double? Because that would be really expensive, 650. I think they're just 325. In any case, if you don't want one, don't run them. 325. Yeah, they're 325. Cool. 260 and 325. So it comes to 325 with the victim fine surcharge. Oh, yeah, as JD says, unless it's a community safety zone, which is rare because the speed cameras are specifically in community safety zones. Anyway, that is that. I can put that away now. Britt wants to know about the explosion on Kitchener Road. Sadly, I do not know anything about the explosion on Kitchener Road, so I can't give you an opinion because I just didn't know about it. I have to admit that I did not watch the news. Apparently, it was JD says that it was a gas leak in Scarborough and somebody passed away as a result. That's very sad. But this is news to me, literally news. News from news. I love it when people share news. Happy news is better than sad news. Okay, what do we got next? We got, can I drive to Toronto with a Quebec temp plate? Is your vehicle safe? Because ultimately, a temporary plate is so you can get a couple of things done to the mechanic. It's not so you can travel interprovincially. Can you do it? If your vehicle is legal to circulate, then I guess you can. But the deal is that it's not the intention. If the vehicle is unsafe for the road, you're going to have a problem when you get here. But the temporary plate is temporary. I don't think there's anything that would prevent you from doing that. Again, you'd have to have a safety certificate saying it was legit to drive with it. Here's a question of why do cops use phones all the time while on duty? Because we have police-issued phones and we use it for communication and police work? Do you mean driving or just on duty? Because while we're also legally permitted to use them while we're driving, although we try and avoid that. That should be the last resort. We try and do these things when either pulled over or when we're not the driver. That said, police issue phones. We use them for police purposes. Yeah. Chris has a question. Yes. I know Chris. Hello, Chris. He says, I volunteered with you at the Mad Booth a few months back. I'm going to apply for auxiliary. How was your experience with the auxiliary? The best. I think it's the absolute best volunteer opportunity, hands down. Nowhere else will you get a front row seat to the best show on earth. Well, maybe it's a second row seat because I think front row technically is policing as a police officer. But because you don't get involved with we don't put you in harm's way. That's the whole goal. There are times that you are thrust into that position, but we're not knowingly putting you into harm's way. In any case, amazing opportunity. I did it for 12 years. I was an auxiliary sergeant when I left, and if I ever retire, I might go back and do it again because and finish off. Because I left before I got my medal, and I kind of want the medal. But I really endorse it strongly as a phenomenal volunteer opportunity. You do 150 hours a year, which is nothing. You get great training, and you develop great relationships with both people you work with and police officers that you, I'll say work with. I was going to say work for, but you're not working for the supervisors. You have your whole separate organization with rank and everything as an auxiliary member. So we're all working together. It really is a good experience. All right. I appreciate the question, and I wish you luck on the process, which, by the way, they are advertising that they're taking applications now for that. Now, since someone else may actually want to know how to do this, let me put it on screen. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on screen. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Careers. So it's to find out and to sign up for such a magical volunteer position. You go to tps.ca/careers, and when you scroll down, you go to volunteer youth programs. Look at that. Look at that sharp-dressed man there with the checker hat band. That's how you know auxiliary. Actually, you can see right there on the badge it says auxiliary officer in their badge number. I think you can apply right there. Did I miss that up? Maybe not. In any case, here I'm going to the auxiliary program. Maybe that's why I'm not on the right page. I know that guy. Okay. You have to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, be at least 18 years of age, successfully completed at least 4 years of secondary school or equivalent, not being convicted of a criminal offense for which a pardon has not been granted, be a fully licensed G driver with no more than 6 demerit points. I would hope that you'd have less than 6 demerit points, like no demerit points, but they do say that. Minimum or meet the vision standards, which includes color peripheral depth perception, and uncorrected visual acuity of 20/40 and best corrected acuity of 20/30 with both eyes open binocularly. Okay? Physically able to perform the duties of the position, must have standard first aid and CPR, level C CPR, be of good moral character and habits. It's 150 hours per year. You reside in the GTA, complete all ongoing training, and commit to the program for a period of a year. It is a good thing. There's a couple caveats, like you can't be a what is this? Oh, it used to be that you couldn't be a security guard or maybe they've changed that, obviously. Interesting. In any case, contact these people to make an application from what it looks like. Great opportunity. Did I say great enough? I think I said great enough. Okay, moving on. Single lane, I'm turning left. Can a car block my view and turn right? What? Single lane, I'm turning left. Can a car block my view and turn right? AJ, I don't know what you mean. If you're in a single lane and you're turning left, where's this other car coming from? And ultimately, you can't do anything unless it's safe to do so. So if they're blocking your view, wait till they're not blocking your view. But I'm not picking up what you're putting down. Do you support red light cameras? Oh, no, I pressed the same thing twice. I meant to say unstar. There we go. Do you support red light cams? Yes, I do. I also support speed cameras. People should not be breaking the law. And catching people for breaking the law is a good thing, because maybe it'll change their behavior going forward and they won't break the law anymore. So I would put it on every road and every traffic light. There's no reason that people should be breaking the law and getting away with it. It just supports breaking the law. And I'm not for breaking the law. I think I've said this too much. Okay. Is it true that they might get rid of Ontario's front license plates? That was an old discussion quite a number of years ago. I don't think that's currently on the table. It was discussed before the question was passed on to the Ontario Chiefs of Police Association, and I think the then president got up and said, we need the front plate. It's a public safety thing. Like, we can identify vehicles twice as easily, because front and rear plates, if you have one plate, it's half as easily as we do now. I don't think they're going anywhere, but it was certainly something the Premier was talking about doing back then, and then changed their mind. Yeah. So I don't think it's currently true. Double A says, what should we do if we see a police car with a headlight or taillight out? Can we stop them somehow? So police officers probably wouldn't appreciate you stopping them if you happen to be next to them and say, hey, by the way, you have a taillight out or a headlight out. Taillight out is not actually illegal in terms of as long as they have one brake light that's functional, it's not illegal. But letting them know if it's safe to do so and doesn't, chasing them down, not a good thing. We're going to check our cars anyway. It must have happened during the shift because we do circle checks before we go on the road. But things happen. And then we take it to our mechanic garage and they change them. We don't change the bulbs. We have mechanics who do that. But letting them know, it's kind of you to do that. But pulling them over, bad idea. Can I drive faster at a school zone when it's not school time? You can go precisely the speed limit. That's the limit you're allowed to go. Now, there are conditional signs at some school zones, and you can go in the off hours, the off-posted speed limit, but the posted speed limit is very much the speed limit. So if it says during certain times it's slower, well, outside of those times it's not slower. But whatever the sign is, I don't think people understand. Speed limits are limits, and they're, as long as the sign is there, they're in effect. I wonder if these are jokes or real. Brad wants to know, radar versus LiDAR. Which do you prefer for general speed enforcement? I use both. The radar that I use is a moving radar system while I'm in a vehicle driving, because LiDAR doesn't work like that. LiDAR is very much from a fixed position. At least the LiDAR that we have is a handheld unit from a fixed position for measuring moving traffic. I love LiDAR. It's very, very accurate, very specific. I know exactly what I'm looking at. Radar requires a little more je ne sais quoi, joie de vivre. I don't know. I'm the three. That's all I can say in French. No, the radar requires a little more articulation, a little more skill. I'm fine to use it, but it's not for everybody. Someone who uses it all the time is going to be good with it, and someone who's taken the course and never touched it, probably not. Whereas a LiDAR unit is plug and play. One is radar, one is laser. Okay. Susie, what is the fine for dangerous driving? Dangerous driving is a criminal offense, so it's not so much it's not so simple. It's a range. But let's pull it up under the Criminal Code of Canada. Criminal Code. Dangerous operation. Dangerous operation actually has a jail time potential. Dangerous operation. Oh no, I've got to go deeper into the code for this. I think it's up to 12 years if it's with bodily harm, and if it's caused death, it's up to life in prison. But it's quite serious. I have to pull up my notes on it because financially it's fairly irrelevant. It's a criminal charge. If you're talking about careless driving or stunt driving, that's different. That's HTA specific, but you've gone for the big one. Yeah. Can I get a ticket for no helmet in doing wheelies on my own property now? The no helmet? No. The doing wheelies? Yes, it's stunt driving. And you can't do it on private property or on the road. Now, if you're talking, I'm assuming you're talking about motorcycle as opposed to a dirt bike or like a pedal bike. Yeah. Okay. Say you lost your license. Can you get a ticket for not physically having it on you? Yes. Because you are required by law to surrender it upon demand of a police officer, and if you don't, you get you get a ticket for $110. What you should be doing if you lost it is doing a beeline, that is a direct line, to the ministry office, the Service Ontario, and get a temporary issued, and that's what you drive with. You should also be making a police report that you lost your ID, because someone might be opening a bank account in your name, but simply not having it on you is not okay, even if it's because you lost it. It would help, however, if upon realizing you lost it, that you made a police report, it was on file with us, and that you were on your way to the licensing office. That might result you in a warning, because we could corroborate that you made a police report already. So there you have it. Can you get a ticket for one burnt out headlight if the other one still works and stores are closed? No. One burnt out, taillight. One burnt out taillight is still more than one, or one functioning. You need only one taillight by law. You need two headlights and one taillight, and you're legal. Ideally, you get that fixed as quickly as possible, because the other one might burn out minutes later. Usually not, but it happens. Okay. If I buy a new car from Facebook Marketplace, what are the things I need to do to be able to drive it? You mean a new to you, but probably used car. So if you're buying privately, obviously you need to have all your documentation, but you need to get that vehicle safetied and transferred to you and insured. So it has to be, first, most important is it has to be safe for the road and insured, and then transferred. Ideally, if you're going to do this, I would buy it, if you can buy it certified, great. If you're buying it as is, that's a problem. You're going to need to either get it towed or if it's unsafe for the road, that's a problem. You can't drive it, and nor can you license it. Yeah. What else can you do? I suggest buying, if you can, buy from a reputable dealer. Curbsiding has some risks, and if you don't know what to look for, you may find yourself buying something that's not so wonderful. And sometimes a deal is not a deal. What else can I tell you? JD, any suggestions for Buying a used car, we'll come back to it if we have any. And if Sergeant Campbell joins the live, well, then he's got lots of information to share. So maybe we'll talk about that in a few. But I want to move on because I don't have anything else to share. I honestly buy my vehicles. Carfax, get a Carfax. That's a suggestion from JD. And the big thing with, thanks for bringing that up, is getting a used vehicle package is required to buy a vehicle now. So get them to make sure they've got one. And Carfax is a great way to search the history. Find out if it's been smashed up. Yeah. Have you heard about the street takeovers that go on at late at night? Yes. Takeovers, we've done lots of enforcement there, and it's generally criminal activity and criminal charges that are laid in relation to those. So, very aware of them, and they're not legal. Okay. What's the sticker renew rules? Ahead? What you mean? Here's the deal. Sticker renewal, and you can get to the appropriate link by going to trafficcop.ca. I'll show you what that looks like. Oops, wrong button here. If you go to trafficcop.ca and you scroll down to the bottom, there is a big old button. Is it a big old? I guess it's not a big old button. Sounds good, though. Renew. Here's the reminders, and here's the renewal. You can renew for 1 year or 2. But what I would suggest you do is go to this link, sign up for the renewal reminders. You can sign up to be reminded for your driver's license, your license plates, and your health card by going to this link. Or if you just want to renew, just go to this one. In any case, you can choose 1 year or 2, and that's really it. You renew, it's free as long as you don't have any outstanding fines. Okay. Here is a question. 2BB wants to know, if a cop pulls me over and they were hiding doing radar so I couldn't see them, can I take them to court for not being able to see them? No. Are you kidding? Really? No, there's no obligation for us to fly a flag, jump up and down, blow an air horn every time we see it. No, we don't have an obligation to be easy to find. You have an obligation not to break the law. So not seeing the cop while you were speeding is not a defense of speeding, but it's a good try. And thank you for making me laugh, whether it was your intention or not. Let's see here. Can I get a ticket if my back headlights tint? Car back headlights? You mean taillights? If you tint your taillights, they're not effective. They have to be discernible at 150 meters. If you're tinting them, they are not safe, not legit, not legal, not okay. No, don't do it. Makes it unsafe. You know what happens to people who tends to have these tinted taillights? People tend not to realize that you're pressing the brakes, and then people drive into you. And then when we investigate, we see, hey, they tinted their taillights, and suddenly a collision that would have been entirely the other person's fault will likely now be yours, or at least partially. Yeah, things that look cool don't necessarily promote safety. This is a great question. How do racetracks and monster trucks get away with stunt driving on private property? They're on tracks, and or they have permits to do that. So if you're in a permitted event, an event that has a permit, or you're on a racetrack that's a licensed racetrack, then you're permitted to stunt drive in those places. But you can't do it in parking lots and streets and stuff. But it's a good question, Elliot. Yeah, the laws on stunt driving were very, very specific. They list like above ground, underground, farmer's field, everywhere. They covered it all. Yes. My license is expiring on the 20th of this month. Where do I get a temporary license? A temporary license isn't for an expired license. So, Resh, what kind of license do you have? If you have a G1, you have 5 years to get your G2. If you didn't do it, then you have to do your G1 again. If you have a G2 and you want to extend your G2, you need to take the G2 test again. There's no renewal process other than take the test again. And if you have a G-class license, you just renew. It's the only one you can simply renew without testing. So, Resh, let me know what you got so we can discuss it and give you the appropriate answer for you. We got here, if I'm waiting behind another car to turn left at a green light, can I enter the intersection? Depends on the size of the intersection, whether or not it is safe to do so. There is not a one-car limit. Big intersection, you could probably fit 2 cars waiting. small intersection, you probably can't. So it really depends. But it's not. There's no specific. Only one car is allowed to what I call charge the intersection, waiting for the light to change. Yeah. I think that the big thing to remember is if you're unable to clear that intersection when it does change, you get stuck in it, you are liable for you're eligible for a ticket because you can't do that. You can't get stuck. You have to clear the signalized intersection. Robbie says, if you saw someone speeding but not on camera and he wasn't, is it he said, she said? What do you mean? Like if I saw someone speeding but not on camera? No, I enter testimony. I charge you. I charge you for speeding if I saw you speeding. If I measured you speeding, camera is irrelevant. For years and years, we didn't have cameras and had nothing to do with the evidentiary process. We give evidence, testimony, our observations in court, and based on our observations, the courts then would hear your defense, and if you don't have one, or if you make yourself more guilty as you speak, you'd be convicted. We don't actually have to record anything. The recording is to protect us, to protect you, to protect everyone, but it's not a requirement. Yeah. So I guess it is a he said, she said situation, but it's our testimony against yours. Let's see here. Can you put chrome tint if it's lets 30% light through? Not on the windows left and right of the driver, and of course nothing on the windshield. So there is a specific charge that says, what does it say? It says, where's my words today? Obscure interior of motor vehicle with color or reflective tint. Chrome tint would be reflective, thus not legal. $110 fine. Dallas Wolfreys. When purchasing a used cargo trailer, how do you go about getting it home prior to being in your name? That's a really good question. I've never purchased a used cargo trailer. I would say purchase it and finalize the deal at their place, or at the ministry, I should say. Just transfer it there. I don't know of any other way to do it because if you're towing it without a trailer plate, you'd be doing it illegally. So I would just say get a plate and transfer it prior to, or finish the sale there. I don't know any other way. But again, this is a good question for Sergeant Campbell, who's probably done this before and could probably speak to it. What's the charge for following an ambulance with lights on too closely? I see it all the time. What is the charge for follow an ambulance? Emergency vehicle. Let's find out. I've never laid this charge. Emergency vehicle. No, I'm going to be in the right act first. I'm in the criminal code, and that's why I'm not finding it. Highway Traffic Act. Is it the 150 meters, not staying with 150 meters behind? It's a $490 ticket. Well, you're failing to. I don't know. JD? What do you think? Do you have an answer for this one? I throw it out your way because I'm not finding it. But there's a 150 meter one for fire specific. I got to come back to it. I'm gonna put a pin in it. He's gonna look it up, and I don't have a good answer for you. So we'll put a pin in it and come back to it. Can you make a U-turn over a single solid yellow line, whether it's a single lane width both ways or double? Can you? It depends on your location. First of all, in Ontario, there's no law against crossing the yellow line. However, you're responsible for everything that happens. In a U-turn, it's a dangerous maneuver. People will argue with me that it's not dangerous. It's just a maneuver, and you got to be safe. It's inherently more dangerous than other turns. And if you are turning, you are 100% liable. So if you do that, know that you could cause a collision and you'd be responsible for it. But you could do it as long as it's not on an edge, a curve, or an area where there was no visibility due to the incline, like a little hill where there's no visibility. Those are prohibited areas for U-turns. Curves where there's no visibility, they're prohibited. Obviously, if there's a sign, it's prohibited. In front of a bridge, viaduct, or tunnel, it's prohibited. Railway crossings. So there's a bunch of places where it's always prohibited. And there you go. Can G2 drivers drive any time of the day? and night, in fact. The only condition for G2 drivers is between midnight and 5 a.m. They have a limit as to how many passengers they can have that are under the age of 20, that are not family members. So if you're out driving around between midnight and 5 a.m., for the first 6 months, you can have no more than one. In the first, second 6 months of you being licensed, you can only have up to 3. After the first year, there's no restriction anymore. So question, or the answer is, how close to follow an ambulance? It's against the law to follow within 300 feet of any fire engine, law enforcement vehicle, or ambulance, or other emergency vehicle when their siren or flashing lights are on. Have you got a fine dollar amount for that? Maybe I can find it if I search 300 feet. 300. I'm scrolling. We're back on the last question. We get that it's against the law. We haven't got the dollar amount yet. Oh, 400 to 2,000. It's a no set fine, I'm assuming. So it's not a fixed. It's a no set fine from the looks of it. $400 to $2,000. So there's the answer to your question there, my friend. Oh, I jumped out of pin messages for some reason. But that's a pretty good charge. Now I want to find the wording and tell everybody to lay that charge, because I see it all the time too. Not okay. Okay. I say not okay, and then I say okay, because that's what I'm saying as I'm reading. Okay, when a vehicle turns onto a 2-lane roadway and the vehicle cuts to the far outside lane. So this is where vehicles should be turning from curb lane to curb lane, or lane left of the curb lane to lane left of the curb lane. You gotta go to the correct lane. Otherwise, it's called an improper turn. $110. I need to buy a case of water. This is like with little, mind you, I have a thermos. I have a thermos. I should put water in it. All right. Chris Medford wants to know what the fine is. I guess that's the question. So it was the 400 to 490. Why can't cops admit when they're wrong? What do you mean wrong? When I get something wrong, I'm the first to admit it. I don't know what the context of your question is, Alexander, but I can tell you that we're pretty quick to admit our error if one actually exists. But again, don't know what you're talking about in terms of your particular situation, and maybe the person you were near or with or dealing with didn't think they were wrong, and you thought they were wrong. But maybe you were right, maybe you were wrong. I just don't know. Tell me more. Dwayne wants to know about, can you drive through a closed road construction with no workers present at the time? Can you? If you get caught, you'd probably have a problem. They're cautionary. Most of the road closed construction, no workers, most of those signs are there all the time, even if there's no one working. So I get it. You'd be taking on some liability, I imagine. If it was closed and you ended up driving into a big hole, you might be having some problems because you were entering. It's different if the road is closed. Oh, truly closed? You're driving into a closed road? If the road is closed, you shouldn't be on there. So could you be into problems? Sure. Would you be taking liability for ignoring the sign? And it also depends if it's a regulated sign. If it's a white regulated sign and it's road closed, that's enforceable. Disobey sign. If my G2 is expiring and I failed my G test, when it expires, do I get a G2 renewal or start again? So the answer is you take your G2 test again if you failed your G, and then you'd be able to renew your test or renew your license. Someone tried calling me. I don't know who it is. Don't recognize the name. Maybe they'll leave me a voicemail. Is it illegal to have Christmas lights on in your car? If they were constant and not distractionary and they didn't, interfere with your ability to see, I probably wouldn't have a problem with them. Is it true? There's no law that says you can't have Christmas lights. If they're flashing red lights, blue lights, green lights, those are prohibited colors for flashing. It really depends. I think for the most part, you're going to have very little problem, but it really depends, Matthew. They have kits that were sold specifically for car use that might be very low wattage, so those might be better than rigging up some of the other options. But interior lights can be on. The big problem is flashing, I think. Can I ride a China 150cc dirt bike? Waiting for this to load. In a big forest, no insurance. It's not for road riding. Well, big forest, off-road dirt bikes need to be. I'm so glad you're here. We have questions for you. Sergeant Campbell's here. Let me slide over here. So a 150cc dirt bike, if you're taking it off your own property, has to be insured and has to be licensed for trails. Because if I've learned anything from Sergeant Campbell's discussion of off-road vehicles, which I truly know very little about.
Yes, it has to be licensed. There has to be liability insurance on it. It has to be licensed with an off-road vehicle plate, which is the green letters, the white background plate, as opposed to the on-road vehicles motorcycle plate, which is the blue letters and white background.
He wanted to know if he could drive one in a big forest with no insurance.
No, not
unless
at
you
all.
own the forest.
Yeah, if you own the forest, or if there is a sanctioned event where insurance coverage is there.
Provided.
So like dirt bike races or motocross races, things like that.
There you go.
You can go without.
Here's a question that I was holding for you. When purchasing a used cargo trailer, how do you go about getting it home prior to being in your name?
You don't.
You wait till you transfer it there?
You transfer it in your name.
Prior to picking it up?
Yep.
Okay. I was suggesting to transfer it at the ministry where you go and finish your deal there, so you transfer it into your name.
So that is the perfect way to do it. Meet the buyer or the seller at the Ministry of Transportation, do the transfer over. Unfortunately, you have to pay taxes on it, and then you can drive it home.
Oddly enough, I think a lot of people buy them for $1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if they actually believe anybody, but I think they try to do that a lot.
Yes. And just be very careful if you're fraudulently declaring the amount that you buy it for. Your insurance company, should something happen to it, it gets stolen, will go back and look and see what you declared, and they'll pay you at $1 after you pay your $500 deductible for your stolen trailer.
Right.
Another thing with trailers, just to be aware, trailers capable of carrying under 3,500 pounds do not have to have a VIN number attached to it. So anything with usually a dual axle, it has to have a VIN number attached. It has to be legible. I'm going to suggest that any trailer that you buy, make sure that you see the VIN number on it.
Might be stolen otherwise.
Absolutely. It happens a lot. Some of the smaller trailers, the VIN number put on there with a sticker. I have a homemade trailer that I used a welder, and I actually, when I made it, they give you a file number, a 17-digit file number, and I welded that right into the tongue so that I knew exactly what that is. So just be careful, because somebody may come and knock at your door and say, hey, the trailer you just spent thousands of dollars on, we're taking it because it belongs to somebody else.
That doesn't feel good.
Nope.
We had a question earlier about following an ambulance, and what would the charge be, or what would the fine be? And there's a distance, and I didn't actually know this. I knew that it was against the law to follow, and we know the fire truck says 150 meters. But JD pulled up and found 300 feet. Well, she's actually 150 meters would be.
Yeah, not quite.
No.
Interesting,
but he found 300 feet. It is 150 meters in the back of a fire engine, right? That's what it says. Is it 150
I'm just
feet?
reading what...
I question what...
See, I wonder... I didn't actually know that it was in the...
I couldn't find it, but JD found it with a $400 to $2,000 fine.
Well, thanks to JD, I heard you talking when I opened up my office after a meeting, and forgot, oh my goodness, it's past 10 o'clock, I got to get in there.
So it's a good thing he's monitoring, so you'd hear.
I'll go talk to him afterwards and see where this where this
we will
is.
revisit this one later. Is it okay to pass on left turn only lane? What? Like use the left turn lane as a passing lane? Where it says only?
So if the traffic is stopped and you're passing other vehicles to pull up to the intersection, sure.
I don't think that's what they're talking about.
I don't think it is either. I think it's very similar to the question we had yesterday.
Misusing a center lane.
Yes. So the left turn lane, yes, is a left turn.
And I see a lot of people. I see everything when I'm off duty. Is they'll get into the center lane, which is either about to become or has become a left turn lane. Pass everybody, and then when the light turns green, jump in front of traffic and effectively using it as a passing lane. That is not okay.
It could also be stunt driving if you do that.
Stunt driving, bad. Let's see here. We got CJ wants to know, does the BAC of 0.08 apply for G license holders under 21? You mean the fact that it's criminal at 0.08? Yeah.
So, two different laws have two different rules. 0.08 is the criminal code limit for operating any motor vehicle. At 0.08, you can be charged.
Criminally.
The Highway Traffic Act and the licensing regulations are a little bit different.
Yes, you got 0.05 for Ontario, and it's in most provinces, it's the same. 0.05 is the limit to legally operate a motor vehicle. In fact, even a supervising driver of a G1 cannot have more than cannot even have 0.05 while supervising, because they have to be legally able to operate a motor vehicle, and 0.05 is not a legal amount of blood alcohol to be supervising or driving. So what you're actually talking about is for G license holders under the age of 22, because at 21 years of age, you cannot have any alcohol in your blood, even if you have a G. A G license holder who is 22 is allowed to have more than 0. But for a novice driver, it is 0, and for a fully licensed driver under the age of 22, it is 0. Did we cover that? That beat it up properly?
Sounds good. I was still looking for the following.
Yes. So a novice driver, anything over 0. And to just explain, if you had 0.05, not criminal, but you'd get a 3-day suspension in addition to the novice suspension that you'd also be getting. I think those would collapse. You get both of them. I think they might be concurrent.
Yeah, so they'll be served concurrent as opposed to one after another consecutive. But yes, you would go, and both of those would go on your record. And if you were to happen again, the escalating sanction would go up for either one of those.
It's so bad, not a good. Second time around, if you did a 0.05, you'd be looking at a 7-day. It's within 10 years for the warrant.
I do believe.
Yeah, within 10 years. So drinking to excess, not a good idea for so many reasons.
Drinking and being around a vehicle in any way, not a good idea.
Yes. It's true.
Any amount.
It's true. Can't mess with that logic. Okay, Stephen wants to know, in a single lane, someone doing 70 in an 80, single lane, can you speed to pass them and then slow down to the speed limit, as I guess they were going to finish their statement in? You can speed up to the speed of 80 legally. You cannot exceed the posted speed limit. You're not legally permitted to. If you were doing any speed above the posted 80, you would be eligible for a ticket.
Now, common sense and the driver's handbook says that you're supposed to pull out, accelerate rapidly, and pass the vehicle as quickly as possible, quickly and safely as possible.
But that's not actually a license to speed. It's just maybe rapidly get to 80. You're going to do what you're going to do, but just know that you are in the moment that you exceed 80, you are now speeding and eligible for consequences.
Yes.
I think so many things are misinterpreted or intentionally interpreted to give license to speed. Like someone said, what was the question they asked yesterday? Something along the lines of, well, what if everybody else is speeding and it's unsafe to be, not speeding? What if they honk at me? What if they're being aggressive towards me? There's a million different excuses, but they're excuses. And I can't give you a license to do anything that's outside of the law. I won't. I don't personally drive above the posted speed limit unless I'm legally permitted to, which is when I'm in a police car doing police stuff. If I go over this posted speed limit in my personal car, I'm going to be eligible for a ticket too. And I don't like tickets.
It's kind of like saying, I went through the amber light with the red light because I was worried the guy behind me is going to hit me. So whose fault is it somebody hits you? Well, yes, it puts you in a bad situation, but if you go through the amber light or the red light, it's your fault.
Yes. Blacked Out S series, did I read that right? 6 series. Is it true that a farm tractor cannot be driven on any 400 series highway? A farm tractor doing like 30? Isn't a farm tractor capping out a slow-moving vehicle? Is it 50?
I'm not 100% sure. I know they are controlled access highways. I know that certain vehicles are allowed and not allowed on them.
When they're being used for the purposes of cutting the grass, and they're driving the shoulders, and they're cutting the off-road portions. They're being taken there by trailers, and very often they're being parked there and left there. At least the ones that I see all the time on the side of the road.
We're talking farm tractor, though. Hauling hay bales.
Yeah, where would they ever get onto the thing?
Well, pick a 400 series highway. Pick the 401 out in farm country. Can they drive down the 400 series? Not a smart thing to do.
I don't think they would be.
But I don't know if there's a restriction.
And fortunately, that's not something I'm ever going to actually need to worry about being in Toronto.
But
it's good to know.
I'm going to find out
Okay.
because, you know what, obviously it may not apply to us, but it applies to somebody. So
We'll get to it.
we should get.
Ruger Remington. Can I overtake using the HOV lane opening? So you want to use the HOV as a passing lane. You're not allowed to enter it unless you qualify to enter it, and at which point you're misusing it, so you'd be eligible for a ticket. It's not a passing lane. And you aren't eligible to go faster than the posted limit in it, which is such a big problem with HOV lanes because people think it's the super fast lane, the expressway. It's not. Okay. It is 10 minutes till the end. Let's see what we got here. We've got a Mandeep the realtor. Can a red light camera ticket? What is this? Oh yes. Can a red light camera give you a ticket on a right turn?
For sure.
Yeah.
Only if you don't stop, though.
If you run the red, whether you go straight or you turn, you've run the red. Amazingly, a lot of people get those tickets. And what I don't understand, I really don't understand. It hurts my head. So many people run red lights on right turns. They don't get that you have to come to a complete stop and only proceed on the right turn on red if it's safe to do so. So why anyone would be worried about this, I don't know.
Even police vehicles, emergency vehicles, have to come to a complete stop before entering an intersection on a red traffic signal.
Even if our full emergency lighting is on, we have to come to a stop.
Everybody has to come to a stop.
I laugh a little bit when I see people making these turns, and I watch them turn into the Costco I frequent, like 6 cars in a row just run the red light, and I wish I had a ticket book with me.
It is not stoptional.
Stoptionals, that was always the line for the ones in parking lots, which are still good ideas to stop at. Niha, I assume it's our regular Niha, not a different Niha, but the question is, when is a good time to get winter tires? Well, getting them and putting them on are two different things. If you're putting them on your vehicle, it is suggested to wait until the temperatures hover around 7 degrees Celsius. That's the optimal time to start using them, as opposed to waiting until it's much colder when you're basically stretching your regular tires beyond their best operating temperatures.
Yeah, that's correct. Winter tires are made of a softer compound. They will wear out quicker if used in temperatures, they say, above 7 degrees.
So I was speaking to a chap. I believe it was I'm not going to. I said his name last time I talked about it, but I won't say his name this time. And he went to get his tires changed over for winter tires, and the mechanic said, "Lucky you still have them on." He had been driving all season with them, and then the mechanic also told him that they were still good, which I thought to be shocking, that they got through an entire season, unless they didn't drive anywhere, on winter tires that didn't just completely turn into garbage, because those winter tires are just not meant for high speed and high heat environments, and that's what happens when you take them on the highway. Ooh, here's a question that we haven't had in a while. Is lane splitting legal in Ontario on a motorcycle? Don't think it says it's illegal anywhere. It doesn't specifically state that it's illegal, but there are so many wonderful laws. It's absolutely illegal because it's careless, it's stunt driving in some situations, and may even be criminal dangerous. It's one of those depends things. The law isn't, there's no absolute listing for everything. Underglow lighting, for instance, there is no underglow lighting law. However, if you're projecting color to the front or the back other than yellow or white, you're breaking the law. Equally, if you're projecting light to the rear other than red or amber, you're breaking the law. So you can see how one law covers it, even though it's not explicit. And that's what we have with lane splitting. Lane splitting and lane filtering are technically covered by careless, stunt, and criminal dangerous.
Right. Other jurisdictions actually have an exception to the rule to allow it, as opposed to us, where we don't have one that prohibits it, but we also don't have one that allows it.
And it's something that we would enforce. people argue all the time, well, California, it's legal in California. Well, California can do what California does. I've been there. I wished I was on a motorcycle as I was sitting on gridlock on a highway as motorcycles were whizzing by me. They even acknowledge on the California Highway Patrol page that it is dangerous or at least high risk. And they give you some tidbits like suggestions that you shouldn't do more than 35 as a speed differential. And that's really where the biggest problem is. It still remains illegal, but the big problem is you have people who are not moving. Usually it's when people are not moving or not moving quickly, and the bike is just taking off like a bullet between. Well, someone who's already asleep at the wheel decides to change lanes, weaves within their lane, does something silly, and that motorcycle is not only damaging the car, but probably killing themselves. And that's it's a recipe for a not so wonderful afternoon.
Trust me, we get it. We're both motorcycle riders. We understand. But we know the risk as well. So as a motorcycle rider, you have less protection around you. Put yourself in the best situation where you're not going to get yourself hurt, whether it's your fault or somebody else's fault.
Yes. I think, although I do see this message that came out, I'll take this one even though you hadn't flagged it. Can you change a song on Apple Music on your phone at a red light? So here's the distracted driving law deal. You can't use your phone. You can't use your phone. You can, the exception is to simply answer or hang up, assuming it's mounted. So anything other than hanging up or answering is use and would be supported by law in getting a conviction against you for distracted driving, which would be a $615 ticket, 3 demerit points on your first conviction, a 3-day suspension on your first conviction. And I only see this going up because the number of people who are violating this particular law, it seems to only get worse, not better.
You know what? There is so much technology out there to assist you while driving to be able to do it. Now, that doesn't change the fact if you use some of this stuff like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or something like that, and you spend your focus on the radio screen as opposed to your cell phone, that doesn't change the careless driving ticket or the charge.
That's right.
But it is a way to, I won't say get around, but it is the exception to the handheld communication device charge.
Well, yeah, you're still eligible for a ticket if you're unable to do it safely. Like my steering wheel allows me to change music. You have big old buttons on the CarPlay on the big infotainment system, which is different than the smaller button on your screen, which needs more motor control. I get why one is legal and one isn't, but there's still, like, when this was originally introduced, careless driving was a more serious offense than distracted driving. It was $125, no points, I think, for the first time. And it has become the bigger charge, but didn't start out that way. The idea was to try and curb the behavior with having less consequence than careless. But careless is absolutely still appropriate.
Yep. Just remember when you're picking up your cell phone, as soon as you pick up the cell phone, as soon as it's in your hand, the offense of use handheld communication device is done.
Even if the battery's dead.
Now, if you start looking at it and you're looking down here as opposed to looking out there and paying attention to what you're doing, you've committed that offense and you've committed the careless driving offense. You're eligible for both at the same time.
Yeah. And this is not hands-free. I see this all the time. People driving down the street on speakerphone claiming to be hands-free. And the lack of self-awareness in that defense is shocking to me. Do you need to slow down for traffic control, setting up signs on the highway with an amber beacon on? So this is, I mean, logically, yeah, you should be doing that because you're putting lives at risk when you don't. Do they qualify for the slow down, move over rule? They're not emergency vehicles. They are not tow trucks. So could you be charged for slow down, move over? Probably not that particular charge. I don't think they would fall. Do they qualify as emergency vehicles?
No, they don't qualify for emergency vehicles if they're an independent contractor. There are some that work for the municipality that has jurisdiction over the road, and they could be considered emergency vehicles for emergency response.
Courtesy, though, suggests you should do absolutely everything to protect the person who's working there to make the roads better, safer, or otherwise involved. Gord wants to know why it's okay for bicycles to lane split.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not. There is a section that deals with passing on the right that they actually don't qualify for as bicycles. However, the careless driving is something they would be eligible for, which I think is good because we have cyclists who do some pretty wonky, weird stuff. Is it okay for officers to use their computer inside their cars while driving? Isn't it distracted driving? It is distracted driving. It is dangerous. It is one of those things that there is a measured and an acknowledged response, which is it's legal. There's an exemption under the Highway Traffic Act, and we're doing it because we have to do it for officer and public safety. We need that information to do our jobs.
Is it a risk? Absolutely.
It is a risk.
Are we held to a higher standard for that risk?
We are absolutely responsible.
Absolutely are.
Yeah. If both two things. One, if it wasn't actually necessary, we wouldn't be able to articulate a way around it. If it was something that was absolutely emergency, we're still responsible for it, but we'd be able to justify why we were doing it, and that's really important. We're allowed to use
Doesn't make it okay if we get in a crash.
Well, no, but it has to be that measured approach. Is it a risk worth taking for the interests of public safety? And that's where we operate in that fine line. If we can avoid it, we do. It's not always possible. And technologies that are coming out, like automatic license plate readers, are making that better. So, things to think about. But I will say this: if only the police are using their computers while driving, it is better than everybody using their computers while driving. The amount of overall risk is greatly reduced. Romeo wants to know if Apple Wallet for car insurance is that good. The only way that you can present your insurance right now that is legal is through an app that is approved by your insurance company. They may have a component that takes you to the Apple Wallet, but links back to the app, but it has to be there. It can't be, so there's some third-party programs that you can take a picture and create a wallet entry. That doesn't cover it. It has to be from the insurance provider, approved by them.
And that is to stop fraud.
Yes.
So somebody can create a PDF making it look like whatever, change a couple of things, and add it to your wallet.
That's the issue with photos and electronic copies.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Halifax Shopping Center wants to know about how about driving with a dome light on in your car? I personally grew up believing that it was not legal. My parents would say, turn that off, you're going to get us pulled over.
Yep.
It's not actually illegal. Not a good idea at night, but not actually illegal. Abram J wants to know, can I do drifting in an empty parking lot? Well, if you do, you'd be eligible.
Parking lot. That's kind of
a parking lot.
Rough.
That's rough. So the deal is that on private property, drifting is stunt driving. And doesn't matter if it's on the road or a parking lot, you'd be eligible for stunt driving charges, which would include a 30-day suspension and a 14-day vehicle impound. It could even be criminal if it was with other people around. You say empty, but if there wasn't empty, if there were people around, like some of these takeover events, that's criminal activity.
Yeah. And you know who you can ask? Everybody else who did it before you and took over somebody's parking lot and made it dangerous.
Those are the reasons.
Yep.
Let's see here. We got jokes for today. The November 14th dad joke from the calendar of calendars. I can't use my laptop anymore because someone spilled apple juice on it. It was a cider attack. A cider attack?
Yeah.
That's.
I told you one the other day, and I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember
We both
either.
laughed about it.
I'm throwing that one directly in the garbage.
Yep.
It does not need to be here. A cider attack?
Cider. Apple cider.
No, I get it, but what? Why?
Cyber
attack. I didn't even.
Wow.
I was just no.
A little slow in the uptake on that one.
That one, yeah. It just wasn't hitting. It wasn't hitting. No good. Cyber cider. No, it's terrible. What do we got to talk about? I haven't made I started recording the video, ran out of time, but I got to tell you, for those who hang out till the end, this is the bonus. There was somebody charged on Sunday night for stunt driving.
Really?
Shocking.
Wow.
153 and a 90.
153 and a 90.
They had 7 people in the vehicle. The back seat had 5 people in it and 3 seatbelts, and nobody was wearing a seatbelt. The driver had their G2 for 14 days.
Guess what?
Yeah. And what else? And they had alcohol in their system.
If you're going to break them all,
I mean,
I'm glad they got caught.
Oh, yeah. Apparently.
Those are the type of people you don't want on the roadway ever when you're around, when anybody's around.
Yeah.
Even when nobody's around.
there's no words like I don't know because I'm making a video about this to share on TikTok, but I don't know if it's if it's funny, like how do they even hit all of them, everything? The only thing they didn't have was a firearm. That they did everything else wrong.
Yeah, don't
Don't
say
go
too
there.
soon because
The next one will have it.
yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it is time to say goodbye for another day. Back tomorrow at 10 a.m. to do it all over again. And that's it. Drive safe, drive sober, park legally. Any other messages of wisdom to impart onto the fine people?
Nope, you got her covered.
Perfect.
And have a good day, though.
Yes, have a good day. Smile. It looks good on you.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
That's it. That's all. We'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.